Welcome to another episode of Did You Know? I'm Heather Farley, TSA Historian, and I'm joined as always with Caroline Argrave, our archivist. Today we're going to take a look at TSA's first year and the hiring of our federal screeners, now known as Transportation Security Officers, or TSOs.
The signing of the Aviation and Transportation Security Act, or ATSA, created TSA and revolutionized screening checkpoints at airports. Tens of thousands of screeners were hired who then moved from airport to airport, federalizing those checkpoints.
It was up to then Administrator John McGaugh and Secretary of the Department of Transportation Norman Mineta to meet this goal. Let's take a look at some of our first year artifacts. We want to start today's episode by talking about our first flag. Caroline, can you tell us about this prototype?
Sure, so this is the prototype flag from our first year that's a part of our permanent collection. There were so many challenges during that first year, but one of the biggest ones was forming a culture and identity for employees to rally around. And this flag shows a lot of that symbolism. The main feature of this flag is the original TSA insignia. You'll notice the stars and stripes, the eagle, and the DOT banner at the bottom. Now for our first year, we were under the Department of Transportation. It was not until 2003 and the creation of the Department of Homeland Security that we transferred to DHS. The two silhouettes on the eagle's wing have come to symbolize the Twin Towers, although it was not originally designed that way. And of course, there were 9 stars and 11 stripes commemorating the terror attacks of September 11th.
We used this insignia until 2018 when we conducted a total overhaul and revamping of TSA's brand. The new insignia features an eagle with its wings spread, breaking through a red ring of containment to really symbolize that freedom of movement that we ensure each and every day. And below the eagle is land and sea, representing the different modes of transportation. And of course, we also have a commemoration to 9/11 in this insignia.
Yeah, it once again features the 9 stars, but now 11 rays, harkening back to our commemoration of the terror attacks of September 11th.
It's really interesting, and it's great to see how our insignia and the agency has evolved over the last 20 plus years. Thank you for sharing this artifact with us.
Of course, thank you.
TSA's roots lay in securing American airports. Rochelle, what have you brought from that time to show us?
So we've got a slew of artifacts concerning the creation of the Mobile Screening Force. And they were TSA's first frontline hire employees. They wore the white button-up shirts with the yellow shield on the front and TSA in big lettering on the back. And as you hear in our oral history interviews, it was a pretty chaotic time for TSA, hiring thousands of new employees, jumping through financial and political hoops to get everyone onboarded at the same time. And this brings me to what we'd like to call our first 300. They were the first 300 employees that TSA hired back in 2002. These photos were donated to us by 2 of those employees, Mike Monroe, who was in Class 1, and Elaine Matsuda, who was in Class 9. And these photos were taken at the graduation ceremony in Oklahoma City.
That is such a great snapshot of our first year. I really encourage people to take a look at our oral history interviews to get a deeper understanding of what that first year was like. What do we have over here?
All right, so these are our original Mobile Screening Force ID cards. And as you can see, they are simple, but they were very functional. And on the front and the back, it says property of the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. And I think that's a really good example of how much interagency cooperation was going on during that time.
Yeah, we worked incredibly closely with the FAA, particularly in that first year. Before TSA was stood up as an agency, FAA was responsible for both safety and security. After the events of 9/11, TSA was created. We took on that security role, and the FAA continued doing safety operations. And we really relied on them that first year for training facilities and to help us get our staff up to speed with how to protect the nation. What about this? What's this over here?
All right, so this is a Mobile Screening Force Airport Federalization commemorative pin, and these were handed out to Mobile Screening Force employees after an airport was federalized.
This morning, there's a changing of the guard for airport security. At Baltimore Washington International, civilian employees are being replaced as hundreds of government-trained screeners report for duty.
Starting in 2002 in Baltimore, Maryland, airports would be brought up to security protocol code. They would hire new employees and they would install new equipment. After that was completed, an employee would get one of these pins commemorating the event.
Yeah, we federalized over 430 airports that first year between April and November. It's a huge achievement. TSA operates in a really unique public-private partnership. Under US law, TSA has the right to inspect passengers and their luggage, but we work with airports to set up our checkpoints and to have office spaces for TSA to operate out of. Thank you for sharing these artifacts with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
We're going to end today's episode with Caroline and this banner on the wall behind me.
This signed banner was donated to the TSA Historian program in its early days. It was signed by members of our mobile screening force who federalized Baltimore Washington International Airport, JFK International Airport, and LaGuardia in the summer of 2002. It was gifted to TSA Administrator James Loy in August of 2002.
I really love this piece, especially because it came together so organically. As we've heard time and time again in our oral history interviews, when we were talking with Justin and Charles in our uniform episode, people really came to TSA with a sense of duty and pride, and they wanted to protect the nation. You can really see that in this piece.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we have similar items, such as these signed posters from the 5th and 10th commemorative events of the terror attacks of September 11th that we hold yearly here at headquarters.
They're fantastic. We also have a quilt.
Yeah, and it was signed by people across the nation from different airports where they wrote down their reflections and thoughts about the terror attacks.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Did You Know? And thanks to Caroline and Rochelle for sharing these artifacts. If you have anything you'd like to donate to the TSA Historian program, please reach out. I'm Heather Farley, and I'll see you next time.